I really hadn't planned on speaking today because I feel like we've debated this last session and judiciary this session quite extensively. But a few comments were made this morning by some of my colleagues here that made me have additional thoughts. And my good friend and colleague, Senator from Logan, mentioned counties being able to challenge decisions made by the state, and why shouldn't they be able to do that? And I think that answer is rather simple. There's nothing in the Constitution that permits for counties to do so. And he further elaborated on comparing it to challenging the Bible. But I think to do so would be ignoring the Founding Fathers' decision to insert language in the Constitution that allowed for this very circumstance. My good friend, the Senator from Marshall, referenced Justice Scalia. And my colleague, junior senator from the 2nd, put on my desk this morning here something from Justice Scalia that I'm going to read for you. This is taking a quote, a portion of this statement here. And Justice Scalia said, "So it really comes down to whether we think a constitutional convention is necessary. I think it is necessary for some purposes, and I'm willing to accept what seems to be a minimal risk of intemperate action. The founders inserted this alternative method of obtaining constitutional amendments because they knew the Congress would be unwilling to give attention to many issues that people are concerned with, particularly those involving restrictions on the federal government's own power." And I think that's the key point here today. The Founding Fathers, in their wisdom and brilliance, inserted this language so that the states would have an alternative method for proposing amendments because they knew that the Congress would be unwilling or unable to limit their own power, particularly when it comes to federal spending, which we've seen time after time. Congressional representatives on both sides of the aisle run for office saying we need to rein in federal spending. But have you seen any of that occur to date? I haven't. And I think this is just sort of the situation that language was inserted for. And as we've been debating this bill this morning, I have a debt clock here on my computer. Just while we've been debating this resolution, the federal budget has risen by $25 million just in the last few minutes. To me, that's a pretty serious situation. It continues to climb even as I'm speaking. And it was mentioned this morning that there's no way to assure that this convention can be limited, but I think to say that would be to ignore the very high bar that the Founding Fathers put in place to make sure that these debates did not get out of hand, and that high bar is the 3/4 of the states to ratify such an amendment. And for those reasons, I support this resolution.